found some awesome looking gold. And, if the ground continues to be good and we get some good gold in the box, then I'll make my move by this claim.
Out on the rugged edge of Alaska, where the wind bites harder than winter and the waves roar like angry giants, a quiet dream begins with one determined woman. Most days out here feel simple. Coffee brewing, boots laced tight, and hope tucked in every breath. But today, something far bigger is waiting beneath the surface, because this is the story of how Emily Riedel didn't just get lucky. She outsmarted every diver in the Bering Sea, pulling up what may be one of the richest jackpots ever recorded, worth an unbelievable $23 million in gold. But hold on, don't hit that subscribe button just yet. We start this search first. Let's get warm, settle in, and step into her world. Emily began her morning like any other, sharing jokes with the crew, checking lines, trusting her gut. Nothing flashy, no loud bragging, just heart. But beneath that calm surface, fate was moving fast. As the dredge dropped into the pitch-dark sea, no one knew history was about to be written. The screens flickered. The first bucket rose, then the next, and suddenly, gold. Not flecks, not crumbs, boulders of shining fortune. Shock turned into buzzing chaos. Rival captains stared in disbelief. Rumors spread across the harbor like wildfire. How did she know exactly where to dig? Was it genius? Was it instinct? Was it destiny? We're about to uncover every twist behind this once-in-a-lifetime strike, the secret location, the nail-biting dive, and the rivals now scrambling to chase her shadow. Now, if your heart's racing, slam that subscribe button at full speed, because this search has only just begun. Let's dive in. By early January 2024, the Bering Sea had sealed itself under more than 4 feet of ice, transforming the coast into a silent, unbroken world. Emily Riedel stood on its frozen surface as if standing on the roof of the unknown. Though rival miners had abandoned operations for the season due to equipment failures and rising fuel costs, up nearly 30% since last winter, Emily felt an inexplicable pull beneath her feet. Stories passed down by coastal elders spoke of ancient travelers who once followed the northern lights, exchanging golden stones said to have come from the waters below. Most dismissed these tales as folklore, but Emily listened. Her intuition, strengthened by years of dredging and heartbreak, whispered that somewhere beneath the white crust slept something powerful, something worth risking everything for. She studied nautical maps and sonar charts late into the night. The numbers suggested unusual deposits, a dense mineral cluster nearly 60 feet below the ice in a region where no records of successful mining existed. Her crew hesitated. The sea in winter was a ruthless judge, but the weight of possibility outweighed fear. On February 3rd, 2024, Emily hauled her equipment to the frozen site. Every tool, from the cutting torches to the modified dredge, was inspected 3 times. One error could cost her not only millions, but her life. The pressure of finance loomed large. Their season budget sat at just $420,000, and even a small mistake could drown it. Still, when the snow fell, like quiet warnings from the sky, she pressed forward, because destiny lived beneath the ice. She cut and reinforced the ice gate, lowering the first components of her dredge into the darkness. The river of cold pushed back. Ropes stiffened. Valves froze. Twice the generator failed, costing nearly 9 precious working hours. Yet Emily did not retreat. Her crew watched her kneel in the snow, placing her hand against the ice as if listening for its breath. She believed the sea did not reveal treasure to those who demanded. it opened only for those who asked with respect. Though the cold tried to numb her resolve, the pull grew stronger. She felt as though the ice itself pulsed beneath her, urging her deeper, whispering that the only way forward was through patience and faith. As the dive began, silence swallowed everything, and the sea seemed to hold its breath. Emily slipped into that dark throat of water, descending nearly 20 meters below the fractured ice. Her breath echoed through the mask as she pushed toward the seabed, where shifting silt hid both fortune and danger. The world narrowed to the faint glow of her lamp, a heartbeat drowned in blackness, guiding her like the ancient wanderers who once crossed these waters, trusting only instinct. The deeper she went, the more she felt history pressing against her shoulders, as if unseen eyes watched her from the walls of time, waiting to see if she was worthy of what slept below. On February 6th, 2024, after carving a narrow gate through nearly 1.3 meters of sea ice, Emily Riedel lowered herself into the freezing void. The world above collapsed into silence, replaced only by the steady rhythm of her oxygen flow. Her suit registered water temperatures sinking to minus 1.8 degrees Celsius, cold enough to numb even the strongest diver within minutes. Yet Emily's focus did not waver. There was too much at stake. Over $23 million in possible gold lay somewhere beneath this submerged wasteland, but so did the threat of complete financial ruin. Only a dim lamp lit her descent. Shadows drifted like old memories, but Emily kept a slow pace, every movement deliberate, every sensation observed. She thought of the earliest northern travelers who once crossed these waters, believing the sea was a living storyteller. They trusted the currents to show truth, and now she followed their silent rituals. At 18 meters deep, she reached the sea floor, which stretched wide like a sleeping creature, blanketed by centuries of silt and migrating stone. The seabed's mineral readings indicated unusual density spikes, nearly 34% higher than the seasonal average, hinting at concentrated deposits. But thick sediment made visibility nearly impossible. Emily signaled her team and began suction dredging, but heavy currents forced her to halt repeatedly. Twice the intake hose jammed with ice fragments, costing nearly 3 hours of progress. Worse, the dredge motor overheated, its bearings cracking from sudden pressure drops. With each failure, their limited budget shrank. Repairs already consumed 12% of the season's funds. Emily knew if the gold lay deeper, the risks only multiplied. Yet she continued working carefully, fearing that a single wrong move might bury the treasure deeper or destroy fragile formations. As she cleared the sediment, the water seemed to pulse with its own life. Emily felt as if unseen guardians watched her, weighing her resolve. Her hands traced along stone ridges, mapping them like ancient carvings. This was no ordinary dig. It was an excavation of time itself. A faint shimmer teased her eyes, but before she could confirm, silt swirled up, cloaking everything in darkness. She steadied herself, breathing slow, and continued feeling her way forward. Her glove brushed something jagged beneath the silt, dense, metallic. She cleared the mud with measured strokes until a golden surface flickered through the murk, raw, heavy, clustered like fruit bound to ancient stone, its density nearly 6 times heavier than surrounding material, whispering that legend had finally awakened. By February 8th, 2024, after nearly 21 cumulative diving hours, Emily continued digging through thick layers of frozen silt. Her dredge suction strained beneath shifting currents. The pressure gauge fluctuated wildly, threatening to shut the machine down. The work grew riskier. Each scoop could cost her everything, if the gold slipped deeper under ice or the machinery broke entirely. Still, Emily persisted, carefully brushing aside sediment as though handling sacred relics. Then her gloved fingers struck something solid, jagged, weighty. At first she feared it was a buried stone, but after clearing several inches of sea dust, a faint glow blinked back, brighter than her diver lamp. Gold, not flakes or crumbs, nuggets the size of river fruit, clustered together as if time had grown them in secret. She traced their edges. The stone felt ancient, fused by centuries of pressure. Geological scans later estimated the gold vein stretched nearly 12 meters, an exceptionally rare continuous deposit beneath ice. Based on density sampling, early calculations suggested the extraction value could exceed $23 million, making this one of the richest isolated pockets in recent regional history. Emily's heartbeat raced. She packed the stones with trembling care, securing each chunk into reinforced containers. The slightest mistake, a slip, a sudden current, could scatter the treasure deeper into the black, where recovery would be nearly impossible. Above her, ice boomed like distant thunder. Temperature monitors reported rapid seawater shifts, more than plus 0.4 degrees Celsius within minutes, indicating unstable flow. The sea felt alive, stirring beneath her boots. Ancient stories, told by coastal elders, came rushing back, that the ocean guarded its wealth, offering it only to those who approached with reverence. Emily felt this truth now. The discovery wasn't just gold, it was a living fragment of time, a message from those who once hunted these waters. With each container sealed, she sensed the sea watching, warning that every gift demanded respect, that nothing here was earned without endurance. Her dredge sputtered as sediment clogged the intake, forcing her to pause. She radioed for surface support, knowing any mechanical failure in this depth could end the mission. The crew rerouted power, but the machine's status showed strain. Repairs had already consumed 17% of their seasonal budget, and continuing risked complete breakdown. Still, she pressed forward, because turning back now meant losing everything. Currents slammed beneath her feet, whipping silt into violent spirals as ice groaned overhead. The water darkened, pressure spiked nearly 18%, and Emily fought to stay grounded, gripping her heavy haul while the sea tested her resolve, as though demanding proof she deserved what she dared claim. By February 10th, 2024, Emily's worksite beneath the Bering Sea became a battlefield. What had been calm, silent water turned suddenly violent, currents striking from the north, surging nearly 20% faster than the season's recorded average. Her gold-filled containers weighed down her suit, dragging her lower as if the ocean itself wanted to reclaim its treasure. Above her, thick ice plates began shifting. Sensors recorded microfractures up to 11 centimeters, groaning like trapped spirits. Every sound vibrated through her bones. Visibility dropped below 2 meters, and her dive lights flickered, swallowed by swirling sediment. To lose her way now meant losing the gold, or her life. She had heard coastal elders warn that the sea tested those who sought its buried wealth. Now she felt those lessons made real. Strange pressure pulses pushed against her chest, each one demanding steadier breath. Rival miners waited far above, unaware of the gold she had found, but watching her progress with cold suspicion. If she failed, they would move in and strip whatever remained. The pressure, emotional and physical, pressed in tighter. Her dredge sputtered again. Ice shards jammed the intake for a third time, costing precious minutes. The engine overheated, its temperature leaping past 105 degrees Celsius, threatening to seize permanently. Repairs so far had already consumed 22% of her remaining budget, a loss that could bury her operation before payday even arrived. A sudden surge slammed her sideways into rock. Pain flared through her shoulder, knocking loose one of the gold loads. She lunged, fingers closing around the container before it drifted into darkness. With trembling hands, she tethered it to her harness. The sea roared, its message unmistakable. Nothing here would be taken easily. Emily steadied herself. She forced slow, measured breaths, her heartbeat sinking with the rhythm of the shifting tide. Nature was not her enemy. It was her examiner, demanding respect, endurance, and humility. Only those worthy would return to the surface. The pull of water grew stronger, forcing her to crawl along the seabed rather than swim. Her hands traced ancient grooves in stone, a reminder that others, long forgotten, had once passed here. Even the gold seemed to pulse, like a living memory trapped beneath time. She whispered a quiet promise. She would return this story to the world. At nearly 29 minutes of dive time, she signaled for ascent. The rope line strained under the weight. Her hull measured over 360 kilograms, including stone casing. That was only a fraction of the estimated deposit, but enough to change her fate. The sea continued to thrash as she rose, testing her resolve to the last moment. She broke the surface into cutting winds, the deck crew rushing forward as ropes groaned under the load. One snapped, losing nearly 7% of recovered ore, and with rival captains already mobilizing after hearing whispers of her find, every second became a desperate struggle to secure the treasure before the storm or another hand claimed it. By February 12, 2024, Emily began her ascent through the swirling black of the Bering Sea. Every kick felt like a battle against a hungry force, trying to drag her back into the deep. The rope lines supporting her gold haul, already bearing nearly 360 kilograms of material, strained dangerously. Sensors recorded tension levels rising to nearly 89% of safe load capacity, edging toward the snapping point. As she climbed, visibility dropped to zero. The water churned violently, stirred by shifting tidal forces common to the region this time of year, but intensified by a brewing winter storm. Her oxygen gauge dipped faster than expected due to rapid exertion, sinking to 38% before she breached the under-ice chamber. With one final push, Emily broke the surface. A blast of night wind hit her face like a blade. The temperature hovered at minus 26 degrees Celsius, and frost formed instantly across her mask. Her crew scrambled across the slippery deck, rushing to pull her and the treasure aboard. The weight of the haul ripped at the pulley arms, and in a violent snap, one rope gave way, sending nearly 7% of ore skittering back into the black. No one dared chase it. Then came the moment that silenced them all. Gold, raw, heavy, unmistakable, spilled from Emily's protective bags, scattering across the deck like molten stars, frozen in metal. Their preliminary hand-scale assessments estimated the visible load alone at more than $3.8 million, only a fraction of the total deposit she had located below. Word spread across the harbor within hours. Crews huddled in cramped bunkhouses and diesel-lit meeting rooms spoke only in breathless fragments. Riedel, Jackpot, under the ice. Competitors scrambled to gather gear, some preparing to mimic her dive path without understanding the danger beneath. But it was already too late. Emily's knowledge, built through years of quiet study, patient scouting, and listening to the whispers of the sea, had outpaced their brute ambition. Snow rolled in thick sheets, draping the deck in white. Emily secured each container with careful precision, checking seals, logging weights, and marking origin depths. She refused to rush. This treasure demanded respect. The crew calculated recovery projections. If the full vein matched her early sampling, the prize could exceed $23 million in gold, a life-defining haul. Even as the storm intensified, pelting steel with icy needles, Emily watched the horizon calmly. She understood that the real battle wasn't with the gold or the sea, it was with time, with weather, and with the unseen hands already preparing to claim her path. Only the boldest heart would survive this race. Snow hissed across the deck, and Emily, drenched and trembling, whispered to her team to prepare the haul for transport. Dawn bled through the storm, painting the deck in pale pink as her crew laid the final bars in their crates. Over $23 million secured, while rival boats arrived too late, their engines silent before the calm presence of a woman who needed no victory cry, only the steady breath of someone who had earned the sea's respect. March 18th, 2024, 04:20 a.m. Bering Sea coastline, mining sector C-17. The storm faded at dawn, leaving the ice-blue horizon strangely quiet as Emily Riedel placed the last heavy bag of gold onto the wooden deck. Each nugget, large, raw, and newly torn from the frozen sea floor, glowed with a brilliant warmth that contradicted the biting cold. The official tally would later place the haul at $23 million plus, totaling nearly 1,900 pounds of raw gold. But in that moment, numbers didn't matter. Silence ruled. Even the crew knew this was a moment too sacred for celebration. Only hours earlier, the entire operation had seemed near collapse. Her main suction dredge stalled twice, choked by sheets of ice that wedged into the intake. Pressure gauges spiked and one hydraulic arm cracked, forcing the crew to repair it by hand, while wind speeds hammered past 70 kilometers per hour. Emily knew that any delay could bury the vein again beneath shifting ice or alert rival crews scattered across the inlet. Still, she pressed on. Every move had to be deliberate. One misjudged cut in the ice could trap her beneath the water. Beneath her boots, the deck still shivered from the changing tide, but the gold lay safe. Her crew watched her. No cheers, no boasting. Only awe. Their frost-red hands hovered above the treasure like pilgrims near sacred fire. Rival boats drifted in just minutes later, engines coughing through the cold, but they found nothing, only the quiet certainty that they had lost. Many had mocked Emily just days before, when she chose to dig beneath the thickest ice shelf instead of chasing the easier open water beds. They blamed her caution, her slow mapping, her habit of marking every temperature change. But those wasted hours had revealed precise fractures where the ancient sediments hid their glittering reward. She didn't taunt her competitors. She simply stood still, golden dust clinging to her clothes like stars. Her triumph wasn't loud, it was earned. It had cost her sleepless nights, broken machinery, and the steady fear that one wrong decision would drown the entire operation. Even the sea seemed humbled, its rage softened into gentle morning waves. As the sun lifted, a honey-rose streak across the ice, Emily whispered gratitude to the water that had tested her so brutally. She understood now that the Bering Sea did not surrender treasure to greed, only to steady hands and patient seekers. By 6:15 a.m., the gold was locked, logged, and secured below deck. Her charting team quietly reviewed thermal scans and sediment profiles, their eyes trailing back to a curious spike south of the original dig site. Another fracture zone where the ice thinned, hinting at something deeper. Wind shifted. Emily tightened her coat. The crew exchanged looks. The sea hadn't finished speaking. Something waited beneath the second shelf. Heavier, darker, older. The silence no longer felt peaceful. It felt like an invitation.